2010 from the financial industry, Chris began performing storytelling shows with The Narrative and The Moth, where he won a Moth Story Slam. He appeared performing stand-up in the HBO documentary Hard Times, Lost on Long Island. In 2012, he performed a solo show about his experience on Wall Street entitled Off the Desk, Tales of a Mediocre Stockbroker, which he will be performing again in New York in 2013. He is a member of the SAG-AFTRA and currently studying acting with Carl Bury at the Carl Bury Studio. Please welcome Chris.
Thanks, Emily. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. I just want to thank everybody that's responsible for having me here today. This is really a great event, and it's been really inspiring going to all the panels and listening to everybody. Yeah, so I live in New York City, and I just got back from the Bima, and I don't want to go home. I'm just kind of like, hey, everybody. I think in like 10 hours, it's going to breathe in, breathe out. Yeah, so as Emily said, I grew up in Manhasset, Long Island. Oh, hey, all right, shut up. So my purpose growing up was money. You know, I grew up in a town where most people worked in Wall Street, except for my father. And it was sort of instilled in me, like those families, the people that had money, those were the happy families. You know, and there was a lot of pressure to work in Wall Street. And I remember I was telling my mother my dream. When I was a little kid, my dream was to be an actor. And I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I wanted to be Harrison Ford. And later on, when I was a senior at Dartmouth, I told my mother, you know, maybe when I graduate, I'll just take acting classes. And I was having a hard time with corporate recruiting. In fact, I had post-traumatic stress disorder walking in Hanover Inn about corporate recruiting. Tell me about yourself. What do you want 5 years? But anyway. I'm glad they remodeled it. It looks different. So I told my mother I was a senior year. I said, you know, I don't know if I'm really meant out for Wall Street. Maybe I could take acting classes. You know, maybe stand up improv. And she goes, for every Harrison Ford, there's a million starting artists. So I stuck with the corporate recruiting. And what are you going to do for money? You know, there was this pressure. What are you going to do for money? And I felt this. My obligation, you know, was to go to an Ivy League school so I could graduate and be important, you know, have a successful job, have a successful career, and I could be, you know, rich alumni and all the sort of fantasy of what money presented. And so, to make a long story short, I started working in Wall Street, and I worked there for 13 years. And I was talking to a friend recently. I was doing some spring cleaning in my apartment, and a friend of mine called me, and he said to me, we were talking about college. He was a Dartmouth friend of mine, and he said, why didn't you take any creative classes when you were at Dartmouth? I said, no, I did, but I didn't do well. You know, maybe that was a sign. Well, I was doing spring cleaning, and I found, this is my college transcript, 1995. Wasn't exactly a model student. I had a 3.1, and I had 3 A's when I was here. 2 of them were in acting, drama 31, and music 36, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And I got a C- in economics, and I became a stockbroker. That makes sense. So I worked as a stockbroker for 13 years. I worked for Lehman Brothers and a couple other infamous firms. And another big part of my story was my drinking and eventual drug use. The writing was on the wall when I was 19. I was at Dick's house and got in some trouble. But I was a binge drinker, and I didn't think I had a problem. Because I used to look around and go, they have a problem. Those people who are alcoholics, not me. And I really did not have a purpose. I was just floating through life and drank through my 20s. And I didn't get in trouble every time I drank, but every time I got in trouble, it was because I was drinking. And I went on a big drinking binge one night in 2005, and I woke up and I found $8,000 worth of receipts from some activities the night before. And I called my therapist the next day and I said, I need help. And I got help, and that was 7 years ago. And that was really the beginning of my journey. That's like sort of what I call my spiritual awakening, my spiritual, and I don't mean like a white light, it's just eventually over time, my head started to clear, and I started thinking, God, and in the context of my career, I don't belong here. This is not who I am, this is not what I want to do. And it was a really stressful period, and I was working in Midtown Manhattan in 2010, and I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral on Fifth Avenue, and I went into church, I got on my knees, and I said, God help me, I can't take this anymore. Please give me a sign, tell me what to do. And the next day I got fired. So, thank you God. I was laid off, technicality, but anyway. I had the opportunity to go back, and but I didn't, and I stuck, and I went full time as an actor, and I had dabbled in stand-up comedy and improv when I was working in Wall Street, but I didn't have the courage. I was too afraid to do it, and I thought to myself at the time, I'm 36, I'm not getting any younger, and then I got into the Screen Actors Guild, and I started performing in the city, and then I did a one-man show, and actually just a few days ago, I just found out my one-man show off the desk was accepted at the New York Fringe Festival this August. So if you're in New York in August, come on down. Not to make this a shameless plug. But now, regarding purpose, now when I was a kid, I had these fantasies of acting. It's like to be famous, to be important, to be on the screen, but really, what's important to me, my purpose as an actor, is to bring joy to other people. To entertain people, to connect with an audience. You know, we go to the theater, we go to the movies to see ourselves. That's the way I see it. How can I connect with someone? How can I be of service? When I start getting in that narcissistic, self-centered thinking, like, how do I look good? Will they like me? Am I going to get applause? Then I'm, you know. But when I can really focus on what my purpose is. And when we did a little diagram today, it just went right to my head, and I put joy right in the center. That's really, and not just in the context of acting. How can I be of service? How can I bring joy to people in everyday life? And because my purpose in life isn't just my career, you know. And I'm an only child, and my father died this past October, and it was a long illness. And thanks to a lot of support from family and friends, I realized that my purpose there was to really be of service to him and to love him in his last days. It was a really difficult time, and he was in hospice care last summer. It was hard to see, but I was there for him. It wasn't about me, and that was my purpose, to have a few laughs with him, even though it was hard to see him in the condition he was in, and to really give him comfort in his last days. And I miss him. In fact, I walk around campus, I get emotional because I have pictures of him in front of Baker Library, in front of Dartmouth Hall. But I'm very grateful at the same time, and I had the opportunity to tell him that when he was dying. The subject of Dartmouth came up, and I said, you know, Dad, I never thanked you. My parents sacrificed a lot to send me here. It's not cheap, as you know, especially not now. And I said, Dad, you know, I still have friends. I go to Dartmouth weddings. I just got a text from, hey, how is it in Hanover? You know, 18 years out of school, I'm still in touch with these people. I've been to weddings all over the country. And I told my dad before he died, I said, you know, Dad, I took it for granted all these years that you sacrificed a lot to put me through school, so thank you. And I also told him I loved him, which I never did growing up. Irish Catholic, you don't do that. You don't hug. But and then he passed, and I really don't have any regrets. And that's sort of, I thought I'd share that with you for any of you that might be experiencing loss in your life or will they soon. And it's really, and it was because I was sober, it was because I had friends in my life. And I'm just so grateful to be here. You know, this is the greatest school in the world. And for those of you that are still here, I don't like giving advice, but enjoy the moment. And just enjoy this clean air, for crying out loud. I'm going back to New York. I go like this, and then, my fingers are dirty on my windowsill. So enjoy this clean air. Don't worry about schoolwork, it's overrated, and have fun. God bless. Thank you very much.